There's a specific kind of silence that comes after you swallow pills meant to end you. Not peace. Just the absence of options. The bottle is empty. My hands won't stop shaking. The message is sent. 3 lines I'll never be able to unsend. Addressed to the only person I have left. I should feel something. Relief, maybe. Terror. But there's only this terrible quiet and the knowledge that in 30 minutes, none of it will matter anymore. The apartment is dark. I didn't bother with lights. What's the point of seeing what you're leaving behind? My phone screen glows on the nightstand. 1 bar of battery. Delivered. Stella will wake up tomorrow and know I gave up. She'll know I wasn't strong enough to survive what happened in that alley 3 months ago. She'll know about the baby I couldn't save and couldn't keep. She'll know I chose this. The cramping starts sooner than I expected. My body, rejecting its own ending. I curl onto my side, one hand pressed against the curve of my belly where something I never asked for is growing. I'm sorry, I whisper to no one. To the child who'll never draw breath. To my sister, who deserved better. To the woman I used to be before that October night tore me apart. The phone buzzes. My vision blurs, but I see it. Not Stella's name. A number I don't recognize. And beneath it, a single emoji response that makes no sense. A red heart, bleeding. Then the door crashes open, and my dying becomes someone else's emergency. If you've ever sent a message you couldn't take back, if you've ever lived in the aftermath of a single night that changed everything, you already know this feeling. These stories don't come often. But when they do, they find the women who need them. 3 months ago, I believed in control. Not the grand kind. I wasn't naive enough to think I ruled my own destiny, but the small, daily kind. The choice to stay late debugging code. The route I walked home from the tech campus in Boston's Innovation District. The pepper spray I kept in my jacket pocket, never once thinking I'd need it until the moment I did, and it wasn't enough. October in Boston smells like dying leaves and the harbor. That night, it smelled like rain on asphalt and something sharper underneath. Fear, maybe, though I didn't recognize it yet. I'd stayed until nearly midnight fixing a critical bug in the financial software our team was launching. 24 years old, 3 years out of MIT, building algorithms that moved millions of dollars I'd never see. It felt important then. Purpose measured in lines of code and system uptime. The alley was a shortcut I'd taken 100 times. Lit badly, smelling of dumpsters and restaurant grease, but it shaved 5 minutes off my walk to the studio apartment I could barely afford. 5 minutes. That's what my safety was worth that night. I didn't hear him until his hand was over my mouth. The mind does strange things during violence. It fractures. Some part of me was still thinking about the bug I'd fixed, the elegant solution I'd found. Another part was cataloging details with terrible precision. The roughness of his palm, the chemical smell of his breath, the way the brick scraped my cheek when he slammed me against the wall. A third part, the part that understood what was happening, simply shut down. He took my phone first, then my laptop bag. Then he saw my face in the streetlight spill and decided things weren't enough. He wanted more. I don't remember all of it. The brain is merciful that way, editing out the worst frames, leaving only the shape of trauma. I remember the cold ground, the ripping sound, the way my own voice sounded when I stopped screaming because no one was coming anyway. I remember thinking, with perfect clarity, that this was how I would die. Not the violence itself, but the knowledge that I was utterly alone in it. He left me there when he was finished, took everything I'd carried, and left me with everything I couldn't. I don't know how long I lay in that alley before I could move. Long enough for the rain to start. Long enough for my body to stop shaking and start the terrible work of cataloging its own damage. When I finally stood, my legs barely held me. I walked home, not to the hospital, not to the police, because some instinct older than reason told me that reporting this would break me faster than surviving it. The apartment I returned to was the same one I'd left 3 hours earlier, but I was someone different walking through the door. I showered until the water ran cold. Threw away my clothes. Stood in front of the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. That was October 8th. By October 15th, I'd convinced myself I was managing. By October 22nd, I'd stopped going to work. By November 3rd, I'd missed my period and known, with the same terrible clarity I'd felt in the alley, that my body was no longer entirely my own. The pregnancy test sat on my bathroom counter for 2 days before I could look at it. 2 lines. Positive. Impossible and undeniable. I made an appointment at a clinic across town where no one knew me. Sat in the waiting room surrounded by women making choices about their bodies, their futures. When they called my name, I walked into that exam room believing I still had options. The doctor, Dr. Reeves, I still remember her name, was kind when she delivered the news. There were complications. Something about my blood type, about clotting factors, about a condition I'd never known I had until it meant I couldn't safely terminate a pregnancy I'd never wanted. The risk to your life would be significant, she said gently, as if those words meant anything when my life had already ended in an alley 4 weeks ago. How significant? I asked. Potentially fatal. So there it was. The baby I couldn't want would kill me if I tried to remove it, and carrying it to term would mean 9 months of watching my body transform into evidence of my own violation. There were no good choices. Only degrees of endurance. I didn't tell Stella. My sister, 3 years older, infinitely braver, the only family I had left after our parents died in a car accident when I was 19. Stella, who'd helped me through college, who'd celebrated every job offer, every promotion, every small victory. She called, constantly those first weeks. Left voicemails I couldn't return because hearing her voice made me want to confess everything, and I knew that confession would destroy the careful numbness I was building. Instead, I quit my job via email, sent a resignation letter citing personal health issues, and stopped answering my work phone. My savings would last 3 months, maybe 4 if I was careful. After that didn't matter. I wasn't planning to be here after that. Boston became a city of ghosts. Every street corner held the possibility of seeing him again. Every man approaching from behind triggered a full-body response, heart racing, vision narrowing, the urge to run overwhelming rational thought. I stopped leaving the apartment except for medical appointments I couldn't miss. Watched my body change week by week. Felt something moving inside me that I couldn't love, couldn't hate, could only endure. The isolation calcified around me. Stella's calls became daily, then desperate. I texted her just enough to prove I was alive. I'm fine. Need space. Will call soon. Lies that bought me time to figure out how to die, without her knowing why. By December, I had a plan. Pills, a note, a clean ending. I practiced writing the goodbye message 20 times before I found words that felt true. I love you.
I'm sorry.
This isn't your fault.
Simple. Clean.
Unbearable. I chose January 10th. No particular significance, just far enough into winter that my isolation wouldn't seem strange. I bought the pills from 3 different pharmacies, so no single purchase would raise flags. Hoarded them in my medicine cabinet like small promises. The night I chose was crystalline with cold. Boston was frozen, the harbor ice-locked, the streets emptied by wind chill warnings. Perfect conditions for a quiet death. I sat on my apartment floor, couldn't bring myself to do it in bed. Something about that felt too sad, and counted out the pills. More than enough. The message was drafted, recipient selected. My finger hovered over send for what felt like hours. When I finally pressed it, the relief was immediate and devastating.
Done.
Irreversible. In a few hours, Stella would wake to those words and know I'd chosen silence over survival. She'd never know why, and that felt like the last kindness I could offer her. The last protection. I swallowed the first pill. Then the second. Then stopped counting and just took them in handfuls with water that tasted metallic, like blood, like endings. The bottle emptied. My hands shook. The apartment was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat, already starting to slow, already beginning the shutdown. 30 minutes, I thought. Maybe less. Just endure this last thing. The phone lit up. My vision was already blurring at the edges, consciousness beginning its slow retreat, but I saw it clearly. An unknown number. A single emoji response. A heart bleeding. And then the door, my locked, bolted, third-floor door, crashed inward like it was made of paper. I thought dying would be quieter. Instead, there's the sound of my door splintering, hinges screaming as they tear from the frame. Wood and metal hitting my floor. Cold air rushing in from the hallway, carrying with it something else, a presence so vast it seems to displace the oxygen in the room. I can't turn my head. The pills are already working, my body going slack against my will. But I see him in my peripheral vision, tall, impossibly still, dressed like he stepped out of some Philadelphia boardroom and into my dying. Dark suit, white shirt, no coat despite the January freeze. He crosses my small apartment in 3 strides that feel more like flight than walking. Don't, I try to say, but my tongue won't cooperate.
Don't save me.
Don't make me survive this. Don't. He kneels beside me, and I see his face clearly for the first time. Young. Too young, maybe 30, with features so precisely arranged they seem designed rather than born. But his eyes, God, his eyes don't match that youth. They're ancient, exhausted. Like they've witnessed centuries of women choosing death over endurance and never stopped being devastated by it. How many? His voice is low, controlled, but I hear the urgency underneath. I can't answer. My vision is tunneling, darkness creeping in from the edges. I want to tell him it's too late, that I counted carefully, that I made sure there would be no halfway. No stomach pumping, no second chances. Just a clean exit. He's already moving. One hand beneath my shoulders, lifting me with a strength that doesn't match his frame. The other hand, I watch with strange detachment as he produces a phone, makes a call in a language I don't recognize. Not quite Italian, not quite Spanish. Something older, vowels shaped by tongues that stopped speaking centuries ago. He carries me to my bed, the bed I couldn't die in because it felt too sad, and lays me down with a gentleness that makes my throat ache. Or maybe that's just the pills shutting down my body system by system. You sent your message to the wrong number, he says, and there's something almost apologetic in his tone. A transposition. 1 digit off. It came to me instead of, he glances at my phone, still clutched in my hand. Instead of Stella. I want to laugh. Of all the ways to fail at dying, a typo. A single wrong digit between goodbye to my sister and whatever this is. I've seen that message before, he continues, and now he's doing something with his sleeve, rolling it back to expose a forearm that looks carved from marble. Not those exact words, but the shape of them. The particular despair of a woman whose decided silence is safer than survival. He meets my eyes, and I see recognition there. Not of me specifically, but of what I represent. How many others has he watched choose this? I read it in 1347, in 1692, in 1918, in languages that don't exist anymore. And I've never stopped answering. There's a blade in his hand. I didn't see him produce it, and he draws it across his own wrist without hesitation. Blood wells up, darker than human blood should be, almost black in my apartment's dim light. You're going to hate me for this, he says quietly, bringing his wrist to my mouth. You're going to wake up and wish I'd let you go. But I need you to understand something, Alicia Madison. Whatever happened to you, whatever broke you badly enough to choose this, you didn't deserve it. And you don't deserve to die for it. The blood touches my lips. Tastes like copper and something else, something that makes every cell in my dying body suddenly scream to live. I try to turn away, but I'm too weak. It's pouring into my mouth, down my throat, and my body is drinking it like salvation. The cramping starts immediately. Not the gentle shutdown of overdose, but violent reversal. My stomach convulses. I'm vomiting, choking, dying in an entirely different way now as my body purges the pills with vicious efficiency. He holds me through it, one hand supporting my head, the other pressed against my belly where something flutters, the baby moving, fighting to stay alive even as I try to kill us both. Breathe, he commands, and it's not a suggestion. There's power in his voice that makes my lungs obey despite everything. You're not done yet. Either of you. I don't know how long it lasts. The purging, The burning, the sensation of my body being rewritten at the cellular level by whatever he is, whatever he's given me. Hours maybe. Or minutes that feel like hours. When it finally subsides, I'm soaked in sweat and tears and shame, curled on my side while this stranger strokes my hair like I'm something precious he's retrieved from wreckage.
Why?
I finally manage. My first word since he crashed through my door. The only question that matters. He's quiet for a long moment. Then, because I'm tired of reading goodbye messages from women who were never supposed to be erased. Because I've existed for 1,000 years and learned exactly one thing that matters. Some silences need to be shattered, even when the person keeping them would rather die than speak. I close my eyes. I'm alive. The baby's alive. And this man, this thing, who saved us both is waiting for an invitation I don't know how to give or deny. I don't know you, I whisper. No, he agrees. But I know you. I've known you for centuries. And you're not going to disappear. Not tonight. Not while I can still break down doors. Something in my chest cracks. Not breaks, cracks. Letting light into spaces that have been dark for months. I don't want to feel it. Don't want to acknowledge that somewhere beneath the numbness, I'm grateful. That some traitorous part of me is relieved he didn't let me go. Who are you? I ask, though I think I already know. Already suspect what it means when someone breaks through locked doors and bleeds darkness and speaks about centuries like they lived them. Theron grieves, he says. And you and I need to talk about what comes next. I wake up in a room that isn't mine. The ceiling is wrong. Too high, crossed with dark wooden beams that look hand-hewn from a time before power tools. The light is wrong too, filtering through windows that span floor to ceiling, revealing a city skyline I don't immediately recognize. Not Boston. The buildings are older here, brick and stone instead of glass and steel. Philadelphia, some distant part of my brain supplies. You're in Philadelphia. The bed beneath me feels like it costs more than my entire year's rent. Egyptian cotton, probably. The kind of sheets that only exist in hotel suites I'll never afford. I'm dressed in clothes that aren't mine either. Soft pajamas that smell faintly of lavender and something else, something mineral and old. My body feels strange. Not wrong, exactly. Just different. Lighter. Like the 3 months of weight I've been carrying has been surgically removed, though I know it hasn't because my hand goes immediately to my belly and finds it still there, still rounded, still proof of what happened. You're awake. I turn my head, slowly, because I don't trust my body yet, and find him standing in the doorway. Theron. He looks exactly as he did in my apartment, except now I'm conscious enough to see the details I missed while dying. The way he holds himself with a stillness that isn't human, like he's forgotten how to perform the small, unconscious movements that make people look alive. The way his eyes track my breathing, my pulse, like he's monitoring vital signs I can't see. How long? My voice is raw, scraped clean. 36 hours. You needed time to metabolize what I gave you. To stabilize. He doesn't move from the doorway like he's giving me space to acclimate. Or maybe he's afraid I'll bolt if he comes closer. There's water on the nightstand. Food in the kitchen when you're ready. A doctor examined you this morning. Both of you are fine. I should ask who the doctor is, how he arranged medical care without hospital records, without questions. But I don't, because I already know the answer. Money.
Power.
The kind of resources that make inconvenient questions disappear. You didn't have to bring me here, I say instead. You could have just, I stop.
What?
Let me die? Saved me and left me in my apartment to deal with the aftermath alone? I don't know what I'm arguing for. I could have, he agrees. But then you would have woken up in that same space where you tried to end yourself, with all the same reasons still waiting. I thought you deserved at least a change of scenery before deciding whether to try again. The honesty of it steals my breath. He's not pretending this fixed anything. Not claiming rescue equals healing. He's just bought me time in a different location and waiting to see what I do with it. I don't understand why you care. It comes out more broken than I intended. You don't know me. You don't. The message wasn't even meant for you. It was a mistake, a wrong number, and you crashed through my door like I can't finish. Like I mattered. Like my life was worth the violence of intervention.
He's quiet for a long time.
Then he crosses the room and sits in the chair beside the bed, careful to maintain distance, to give me space to breathe. In 1347, he says finally, I received a message carved into the wall of a plague house in Florence. A woman had locked herself inside with her dying family rather than face the mob outside, convinced she was a witch because she'd tried to heal them with herbs. She wrote, "No one will remember we existed." I broke down that door too. I was too late to save her family, but I carried her out alive. I stare at him. Can't reconcile the man sitting beside me with the scope of time he's describing. In 1692, he continues, his voice steady, factual, like he's reciting history he lived rather than read, I found a letter tucked under a stone near Salem. A woman accused of witchcraft who knew she'd hang before anyone believed her innocence. She wrote to her daughter, "Forget you ever knew me." I got there the night before her execution. She survived. Her daughter never forgot. He leans forward slightly, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. In 1918, I intercepted a telegram in Paris. A field nurse who'd survived the war but couldn't survive what the soldiers had done to her in a tent behind the lines. She'd written to no one because there was no one left. Just 3 words. I can't continue. His eyes meet mine, and I see it now. The weight of all those women, all those messages, all those interventions across centuries of feminine suffering he's witnessed and refused to ignore. You're not the first woman to decide silence is safer than speaking, he says quietly. You're not the first to believe you deserved what happened to you. And you're not the first to write a goodbye message thinking no one would come. He pauses. But I always come, Alicia. I've been coming for 1,000 years. And I've never once regretted breaking down the door. Something inside me fractures. Not breaks, fractures, the way ice does when you pour hot water over it too fast. You don't even know what happened to me, I whisper. I know enough, he says. I know you were hurt badly enough to quit your job. Badly enough to stop answering calls from the only family you have left. Badly enough to carry a pregnancy you never chose and a shame you never earned. His voice drops lower. I know someone took something from you that you can't get back. And I know you've been blaming yourself for not preventing it. The tears come before I can stop them. Months of them, dammed up behind careful numbness, now spilling over because this stranger, this ancient thing in human form, is naming truths I couldn't speak to myself. He's still out there, I choke out. Walking around Boston like he didn't, like I wasn't. I can't finish. Can't say the words that make it real. Not for long. There's something in Theron's voice now that wasn't there before. Something cold and precise, and utterly without mercy. I've already located him. I know where he works, where he lives, where he walks at night thinking he got away with it. He pauses. I'm waiting for your permission to ensure he never does it again. I should be horrified. Should ask what he means by ensure. Should care about justice systems and due process and all the civilized frameworks that failed to protect me in the first place. But I don't. Instead, I hear myself say, don't ask me. Just do it. He nods once. Already done, then. 3 hours ago, while you were still sleeping. He won't hurt anyone else. The relief is overwhelming and terrible. I should feel something, guilt, satisfaction, horror at what I've sanctioned. But there's only this, the knowledge that the man who destroyed me has been destroyed in turn, and I didn't have to do it myself. What now? I ask, because I genuinely don't know. I woke up planning to die, and instead I'm alive, pregnant, under the protection of something that breaks doors and hunts rapists, and has apparently been doing so for centuries. Theron stands, moves back toward the doorway, giving me space again. Now you rest. You eat. You let your body remember what it feels like to be safe. He pauses at the threshold. And when you're ready, you call your sister. Because Stella's been leaving me voicemails for the past day and a half, and I think she deserves to know you're alive. He's gone before I can respond, leaving me alone in this beautiful room with questions I don't have language for yet. But underneath the questions, something else is growing. Something I haven't felt since that October night tore my life in half.
Hope.
Small and fragile and possibly foolish.
But there.
I spend 3 days in Theron's estate before I find the courage to ask what he did. 3 days of sleeping in beds too comfortable for nightmares, though they come anyway. 3 days of eating food prepared by a housekeeper named Iris who speaks rarely but leaves fresh flowers by my bedside each morning. 3 days of standing at those floor-to-ceiling windows watching Philadelphia move beneath me, all those people living normal lives while I exist in this suspended state between who I was and who I'm becoming. Theron keeps his distance. I see him mostly at dawn and dusk, like he's bound by some ancient rhythm that doesn't include midday. He asks how I'm feeling, ensures I have everything I need, never once asks about that October night, though I catch him sometimes watching me with an expression that suggests he already knows every detail I've tried to forget. On the fourth morning, I find him in his library, a room that smells like leather and time, walls lined with books in languages I can't read. He's sitting in a wingback chair that looks medieval, reading something handwritten, and doesn't look up when I enter. "You said you found him," I say without preamble. I can't say attacker. Can't say rapist. "You said you'd make sure he wouldn't hurt anyone else." Now he looks up, marks his place with a strip of cloth that might be older than my entire bloodline. "I did." "What does that mean?" My voice is steadier than I expected. "What did you do to him?" He closes the book gently, sets it aside. "Do you want details, Alicia? Or do you want permission to stop thinking about him?" The question stops me. Because he's right, I don't actually want to know the specifics. Don't want images of violence to replace the ones already living in my head. I just want confirmation that the world is different now, that the man who broke me has been broken in turn. I want to know he can't do it again. I say finally. He can't. Simple. Definitive. Final. Is he dead? Theron's expression doesn't change. Does it matter? And here's the terrible truth. It doesn't. Whether he's dead or destroyed in some other way, whether Theron killed him or simply ensured he'll never be free again, none of it changes what happened to me. None of it gives me back the version of myself who walked into that alley believing the world was basically safe. I should feel something, I whisper. Relief. Satisfaction. Something. But there's just nothing. Just this empty space where I thought justice would be. Justice doesn't fill empty spaces, Theron says quietly. It just stops them from getting bigger. He stands, crosses to where I'm standing frozen in his doorway. The man who hurt you is gone. That's not healing. That's just removal of continued threat. What comes next, that's the part you have to do yourself. I hate that he's right. Hate that, even with my attacker eliminated, I'm still standing here pregnant with his child, still carrying months of shame and silence, still measuring my worth by what was stolen from me. I don't know how, I admit. I don't know how to be the person I was before. You can't be. His honesty is devastating. That person died in the alley. But you can become someone else. Someone who survived. Someone who chose to keep living even when dying felt easier. I didn't choose to live, I remind him. You chose for me. I chose to intervene, he corrects. You're still choosing every morning you wake up and don't try again. The next day, he introduces me to Dr. Okoye. She arrives at the estate in the early afternoon, a woman maybe 50 with silver threading through her dark hair and eyes that have clearly witnessed trauma without drowning in it. She doesn't work from an office, Theron explains. She specializes in patients who can't access traditional therapy for complicated reasons. I understand immediately. She treats people in Theron's world. People who've survived things that can't be reported to normal authorities. Our first session happens in the estate's greenhouse, surrounded by growing things that don't judge. Dr. Okoye doesn't ask me to talk about the attack. Instead, she asks, "What did you lose that night besides your safety?" The question breaks me open. Because it's not just safety. It's my belief that my body belonged to me. My ability to walk streets without calculating danger. My trust that silence could protect me. My conviction that I deserved to occupy space in the world. Everything, I whisper. I lost everything. No, she says gently. You lost a great deal. But not everything. You're still here. You're still breathing. You're still capable of choosing what happens next. I'm pregnant with my rapist's child. I say flatly. That's not a choice. That's a consequence I'm forced to carry. The pregnancy happened to you, she agrees. What you do about it, that's where choice begins. You can hate this baby. You can love it. You can feel nothing at all and still decide to protect it. None of those responses are wrong. They're just different ways of surviving. Over the following weeks, I learned that healing isn't linear. Some days I can talk about the attack with clinical precision. Other days I can't leave my room because I've convinced myself he's still out there, still coming for me, despite Theron's assurance that he's not. Dr. Okoye never rushes me. Never suggests I should be further along in recovery than I am. You're not broken, she tells me during one session when I've spent 40 minutes crying about nothing and everything. You're responding exactly as someone should who survived the unsurvivable. Your body is doing its job, keeping you alert to threat. The problem is the threat is gone, but your nervous system doesn't know that yet. Theron arranges everything without asking. The therapy sessions, the medical care, the quiet space to fall apart without witnesses. He never asks for gratitude or explanation. Never demands to know details I'm not ready to share. Just creates this bubble of safety and watches from the edges as I slowly, painfully, begin reassembling myself. One night, 6 weeks into my stay, I find him standing at the same windows I've been staring through for weeks. The city glitters below us, all those lives intersecting and separating, continuing despite individual tragedies. I need to tell Stella, I say. She deserves to know I'm alive. Why I disappeared. He nods without turning. I'll have Iris prepare the guest room. She can stay as long as she wants. She's going to have questions.
About you.
About all of this. I imagine she will. Now he does turn, and I see something in his expression I haven't seen before. Vulnerability, maybe. Or the awareness that letting Stella in means the end of this isolated recovery, the beginning of reintegration into the world I tried to leave. Are you ready for that? I'm not. But I'm also tired of letting fear make my decisions. No, I admit. But I'm calling her anyway. Something shifts in Theron's face. Not quite a smile, but close. That's the first brave thing I've heard you say since I broke down your door. The first. Choosing to die wasn't brave, Alicia. It was surrender. He gestures at the phone in my hand, at the call I'm about to make. This is what courage actually looks like. Facing the people who love you and admitting you're not okay. I dial before I can change my mind. The phone rings once.
Twice.
Then, Alicia? Stella's voice breaks on my name. Oh my God, Alicia, where are you? I've been so scared. I know, I whisper. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I need to tell you something, and I need you to come to Philadelphia. Stella arrives on a Tuesday morning when Philadelphia is wrapped in February cold. I watch from the library window as Theron's driver pulls up, as my sister steps out of the black car looking smaller than I remember. 27 years old, but moving like she's carried the weight of my disappearance in her bones. She's lost weight. I can see it even from 3 stories up. The way her coat hangs looser, the sharpness of her cheekbones. Guilt hits me like physical force. I did that to her. My silence carved that hollowness into her face. I meet her at the door before Iris can. Need to see her face. Need to know if she'll still recognize the sister who vanished into silence 3 months ago. She stops on the threshold when she sees me, her overnight bag slipping from her shoulder to the marble floor with a sound neither of us registers. Her eyes go immediately to my belly. I'm 5 months along now. There's no hiding it anymore, no oversized sweaters that disguise the evidence. I'm visibly, undeniably pregnant, and I watch my sister's face cycle through confusion, shock, understanding, devastation. All in the space of 3 seconds. Alicia, she breathes. Then she's crossing the space between us, pulling me into her arms with a force that steals my breath. She's crying. I can feel her tears soaking into my shoulder, Feel her hands clutching at my back like she's afraid I'll disappear again if she lets go. I thought she can't finish. The call stopped and you wouldn't answer, and I kept thinking maybe you were dead, maybe something happened, maybe I'd lost you the way we lost Mom and Dad, and I'd never even know why. I'm sorry, I whisper into her hair. I'm so sorry. We stand there in Theron's entryway for a long time, two orphans who only have each other, holding on like the world might tear us apart if we loosen our grip. Iris appears briefly, retrieves Stella's bag, disappears again without a word. Theron doesn't show himself at all, giving us space to break in private. Eventually we move to the sitting room, another space filled with furniture older than our combined lifetimes. Stella sits beside me on the sofa, one hand gripping mine like an anchor, her eyes tracking over me like she's cataloging damage. Tell me, she says finally. Whatever it is, just tell me. So I do. Not all at once. Not in any kind of order. But piece by piece, I give her the truth I've been carrying alone. The October night, the alley, the man whose face I still see every time I close my eyes. The pregnancy I discovered too late. The medical complications that made termination impossible. The months of silence because I couldn't bear to see her pity, couldn't survive her kindness when I felt contaminated beyond cleaning. I tried to. I stop. Start again. 3 weeks ago, I sent you a message. Or I meant to send it to you. But the number was wrong and it went to someone else instead, and Theron came. He broke down my door, and he saved me even though I didn't want to be saved. Stella's face has gone very still. Very white. You tried to kill yourself. Yes. Because you were, she can't say it either. Rape. Pregnant. Violated in ways that don't have clean language. Because I couldn't see any way forward, I say quietly. Because carrying this baby felt like carrying proof of my own worthlessness. Because I thought dying was easier than telling you I'd failed at protecting myself. She makes a sound I've never heard from her before, raw and broken and furious all at once. You didn't fail at anything. Someone hurt you. Someone took from you. That's not failure, Alicia. That's violence. And you survived it. Barely. But you did. Her grip on my hand tightens. You're here. You're alive. And her voice cracks. I'm so angry you went through this alone. I'm so angry you thought you couldn't tell me. But I'm just so grateful you're still here. We cry together then. Not pretty tears, but the ugly, gasping kind that come from months of accumulated grief finally finding release. We cry for the woman I was who died in that alley. We cry for the autonomy stolen, the silence forced, the isolation chosen. We cry for all the ways trauma rewrites us without permission. But we also eventually start to plan. When's the due date? Stella asks, wiping her face with the heel of her hand.
June.
Early June. And you want to, she hesitates. You're keeping the baby? It's the first time anyone's asked directly. Dr. Okoye danced around it. Theron never mentioned it. But Stella needs to know where I stand, what I'm choosing in the aftermath of having every choice stripped away. I don't know if I can love her, I admit. I don't know if I'll look at her and see him or see myself or see something entirely separate. But I know I can't. I survived dying once. I don't think I can do it again. And my hand goes to my belly, where movement has become frequent now, insistent. She's fighting to be here. I owe her at least the chance to exist. Her. Stella's voice softens. The ultrasound last week. A girl. I haven't named her yet. Can't quite bring myself to give identity to something that still feels abstract despite its physical presence. Then we'll figure it out, Stella says with a certainty I don't feel but desperately need.
Together.
You and me. We'll figure out how to be mothers when we barely know how to be sisters without parents. The door opens quietly. Theron appears, carrying a tea service that looks like it belongs in a museum. He sets it on the table between us, movements careful and deliberate, clearly trying not to intrude on something fragile. Stella's attention shifts to him completely. I watch her assess him the way she assessed every boyfriend I ever brought home, except sharper now. More protective. She's cataloging details. His age that doesn't match his eyes, his expensive clothes, the ease with which he moves through this estate that suggests ownership. "You're Theron," she says. Not a question. "I am." He doesn't offer his hand, doesn't perform normal social rituals. Just meets her gaze steadily. "You saved my sister's life." I intervened. "She's done this saving herself." Stella stands, moves closer to him, all 5'4" of her radiating protective fury.
Why?
Why would you bring a stranger to your home? Pay for her medical care? Provide therapy and safety and… She gestures at the opulent room around us. All of this? What do you want from her? I should intervene. Should explain. But I want to hear his answer too. "I want her to survive," Theron says simply. "I want her child to be born healthy. I want her to rebuild herself into someone who can look in mirrors again, without flinching." He pauses. "And when she's ready, if she's ever ready, I want her to understand that what happened to her wasn't the end of her story. Just the worst chapter." Stella searches his face for a long moment, looking for lies, for hidden agendas, for the catch that men like him always have. But whatever she sees there must satisfy something, because she nods slowly. "She's my only family," she says quietly. "If you hurt her, I don't care what you are or what resources you have. I will find a way to destroy you." Theron's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in his ancient eyes. Respect, maybe. I would expect nothing less. He leaves us then, disappearing back into whatever part of the estate he occupies when he's not quietly managing my recovery. Stella returns to the sofa, picks up her tea with hands that shake slightly. "He's not human," she says. Not a question.
No.
"And you have feelings for him." I start to deny it, then stop. Because she's right. Somewhere between door-breaking and monster hunting and quiet morning conversations, I've developed something for Theron that I don't have language for yet. Gratitude, yes. But also recognition. The sense of being seen by someone who's witnessed enough centuries of human suffering to know exactly what mine looks like. I don't know what I feel, I admit. Except that he doesn't expect anything from me. Doesn't demand gratitude, or affection, or explanation. Just create space for me to exist without performing. Stella is quiet for a long time. Then,
Okay.
we'll figure that out too. After we figure out how to prepare for a baby neither of us knows how to raise. And just like that, the future stops being an abstract terror and becomes a series of concrete problems we can solve together. Stella stays for 3 days. We shop for baby clothes I can't quite believe will belong to someone real. We interview potential nannies because I know I won't be able to do this alone. We talk late into the night about names and nursery colors and whether I'll return to Boston or stay here in this Philadelphia estate that's become a haven. On her last morning, I find her and Theron having coffee in the breakfast room. They stop talking when I enter, but not guiltily. Just naturally, like they've reached some understanding I wasn't part of. "What?" I ask, looking between them. "Your sister has made me promise to never let you suffer alone again," Theron says calmly. And I've agreed. Stella meets my eyes. I like him. I don't trust him. I don't think he expects me to. But I like that he doesn't treat you like you're broken. Like you're just someone who needs time and space to reassemble. Something in my chest loosens. Having Stella's approval, or at least her acceptance, of this strange arrangement feels like permission to stop questioning every moment of grace I've been given. After she leaves, after I've watched the car disappear down the long drive, I find Theron in his library again. "Thank you," I say, "for letting her see that I'm okay. Or at least that I'm trying to be." He looks up from his book. "You're doing more than trying, Alicia. You're succeeding.
Slowly.
But definitely." And for the first time since October, I almost believe him. Labor starts on a Tuesday in early June, 3 weeks before my due date. I wake at dawn to cramping that feels different from the Braxton Hicks contractions I've been having for weeks.
Deeper.
More insistent. Like my body has decided it's done carrying this weight and it's time, ready or not, to bring something new into the world. I find Theron already awake. He's always awake at dawn, some ancient rhythm I've stopped questioning. He takes one look at my face and says, "How far apart?" 10 minutes. Maybe less. My hand goes to my belly, feeling the tightness gathering again. I'm not ready. You are. He's already moving, phone in hand, calling the midwife he arranged weeks ago. Another person who doesn't ask questions, who understands that some births happen outside normal channels for complicated reasons. You've been ready for months. You just didn't know it yet. The labor lasts 14 hours. I spend most of it in the master bedroom, my room now, though I still think of it as borrowed space, with Theron stationed just outside the door and Dr. Okoye holding my hand through contractions that feel like my body is tearing itself apart to create room for new life. This is different from trauma, Dr. Okoye says during a brief respite, wiping sweat from my forehead. Your body knows how to do this. Trust it. But trusting my body feels impossible when my body has betrayed me so thoroughly. When it was used without permission, changed without consent, forced to create life from violence. Each contraction feels like punishment for surviving, evidence that I'm still being controlled by that October night. I can't. I gasp as another wave builds. I can't do this. You're already doing it, she says firmly. You've been doing impossible things for months. This is just one more. Somewhere around hour 12, when the pain has become a constant presence I can no longer distinguish from myself, I hear myself ask for Theron. Dr. Okoye hesitates. This is women's space, intimate and raw. But something in my face must convince her, because she opens the door. He enters like he's walking into a cathedral. Reverent. Careful. His eyes find mine across the room, and I see something in them I haven't seen before. Fear. This ancient thing who has witnessed centuries of human suffering is afraid for me. I need you to tell me she'll be okay, I whisper. The baby. I need to know that even if I can't love her, she'll be okay. Theron crosses to the bed, takes my hand with a gentleness that belies his inhuman strength. She'll be more than okay. She'll be extraordinary. Because she survived you trying to end both your lives, and she chose to keep fighting anyway. He pauses. You're both fighters, Alicia. That's something you gave her that has nothing to do with her father. That's entirely you. The final hours blur together. Pain and pressure and the midwife's calm instructions.
Push. Breathe. Rest.
Again. My body doing what bodies have done for millennia, creating life whether or not the mind is ready to accept it. And then a cry. Sharp and furious and utterly alive. It's a girl, the midwife says unnecessarily. I already knew, have known for months. But hearing it confirmed while holding this tiny, screaming, perfect creature makes it real in a way ultrasounds never did. She's placed on my chest, still covered in vernix and blood and the evidence of birth. She's so small, impossibly small. Her eyes are squeezed shut against the brightness of the world, her fists clenched like she's already prepared to fight for her place in it. I wait for revulsion, for the hatred I've been preparing for, the inability to separate this child from the violence that created her. But when I look at her face, red and wrinkled and nothing like him, all I feel is responsibility. Not love, exactly.
Not yet.
But the bone-deep knowledge that this person exists because I survived. That she's fighting to be here because I fought to stay here. Vera, I whisper. The name I've been testing privately for weeks, never quite believing I'd have the chance to use it. Your name is Vera.
Truth.
Because she's the truth I've been running from for 9 months. The evidence that violence happened but didn't win. That I can carry proof of trauma in my arms and still choose what comes next. Dr. Okoye helps me through the first feeding, awkward and painful, and nothing like the serene images I've seen. Vera latches desperately, taking what she needs with single-minded determination. Theron stays at the periphery, watching with an expression I can't quite read. When the midwife and Dr. Okoye finally leave us alone, he approaches slowly. May I? He gestures toward the chair beside the bed. I nod. He sits, his attention on Vera's tiny face, her miniature hands that grip my finger with surprising strength. She's beautiful, he says quietly. She's a stranger, I correct. A stranger I'm responsible for keeping alive despite having no idea how. You'll learn. The same way you learned how to survive everything else, one impossible day at a time. We sit in silence for a while, watching Vera sleep that boneless newborn sleep, her chest rising and falling with breaths so small they barely seem adequate. The estate is quiet around us, holding space for this new life that's rewritten all the rules. I want to stay, I say suddenly, the words surprising me even as I speak them.
Here.
In Philadelphia. At least for a while longer. If that's allowed. Theron's expression shifts. This isn't a hotel, Alicia. You're not a guest with an expiration date. He stops. Starts again. You can stay as long as you need. As long as you want. Why? It's the question I've been avoiding for months. Why would you let a stranger and her baby live in your home indefinitely? What do you get from this? He's quiet for so long I think he won't answer. Then, do you know what it's like to watch centuries of women disappear? To read their goodbye messages and arrive too late, over and over, until you start to believe that feminine suffering is simply the natural order of things. His eyes meet mine, and I see the weight of all those failures in them. You're not the first woman I've saved, but you're the first one who's stayed long enough for me to witness what comes after survival. And he stops again, searching for words. I want to see who you become, who Vera becomes. I want to know that at least once, the story didn't end with erasure. Something in my chest cracks open. Not love, I'm not ready for that. May never be ready when it comes to the man who saw me at my most broken. But recognition. The understanding that we're both carrying weight we didn't ask for, trying to figure out how to set it down without breaking under its release. I'm falling for you, I admit. I don't want to be. It feels too complicated, too soon, too tangled up with rescue and gratitude and trauma. But I am. I know. His voice is infinitely gentle. And I'm not going to take advantage of that. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, you'll know the difference between gratitude and desire. Until then, you and Vera have a home here. No conditions. No expectations. Just space to become whoever you need to be. Vera stirs against my chest, making small noises of complaint before settling again. I look down at her, this tiny person who exists because I survived, and feel the first stirrings of something that might eventually become love. Not for what she represents or what she costs me, but for who she is, separate from all of it. A person choosing to be here, just like I'm choosing to stay. Thank you, I whisper. Not for saving me. I've thanked him for that already, countless times. But for this, for believing I was worth the effort of salvation. For creating space where broken things can reassemble themselves. For understanding that healing isn't linear and rescue isn't romance, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply choose to keep existing. He nods once, then stands. Rest. Both of you. The world will still be here when you wake up. After he's gone, I lie in the massive bed holding my daughter, watching early morning light filter through windows that overlook a city that's become familiar. I don't know what comes next. Don't know if I'll ever stop measuring my life in before and after that October night. Don't know if the pull I feel toward Theron will evolve into something real or remain forever tangled in the circumstances that brought us together. But I know this. I'm alive. Vera's alive. And somewhere between dying and birth, between Boston and Philadelphia, between the woman I was and whoever I'm becoming, I've found something that feels like the beginning of choice. Not freedom, exactly. That might take years. But agency. The ability to decide what happens next, even when every option feels impossible. I didn't know, that night I swallowed those pills, that I'd live long enough to hold my daughter. That I'd stop flinching when I saw my reflection. That I'd learn the difference between being saved and being seen. There are others. Women who've lived through nights they thought would end them. Women who've discovered that the darkest moment isn't the end of the story, just the place where it breaks open into something else. If you're one of them, if you felt something shift while listening, these stories exist because you need them. But they're easy to lose. Subscribe, and they'll find you when you need them most. I press a kiss to Vera's forehead, breathing in that newborn smell that's supposed to trigger maternal instinct, but mostly just smells like survival. Outside, Philadelphia is waking up. Inside, in this room filled with expensive furniture and borrowed safety, I'm finally allowing myself to believe that maybe, I deserve to wake up too. Not as Mrs. Somebody. Not as victim or survivor or any other label that tries to contain the complexity of what I've lived through. Just as Alicia. Mother. Woman. Person still learning how to exist in a body that's been rewritten by violence but refuses to be defined by it. The future is terrifying and uncertain and stretching ahead like an unmapped territory. But for the first time in 9 months, I'm curious about what it might hold. And that small flicker of curiosity about tomorrow is more than I ever thought I'd feel again. It's enough. For now, it's enough.